Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Lately I've been reeling, watching the nightly news. Don't seem to find the rhythm, just wanna sing the blues. I gotta get that fire back in my bones. So when somebody please pass the megaphone. Oh, hear my prayer tonight, I'm singing to the sky. Give me strength to raise my voice, let me testify. Oh, hear my prayer tonight, 'cause this is do or die. The time has come to make a choice. Let it move you, well, you let it move, oh, let it move you. Let it move you, oh, let it move you. Though I walk through the valley in the shadow of night, oh, with you by my side, I'm stepping into the light. I choose. Go let it move you, go let it move, go let it move you. Joy down in my heart to stay. I need that joy down in my heart to stay.
Hi everyone, welcome to this special edition of The Voice. My name is Julie Scott Emmons and I am the Vice President of North Carolina Values Coalition. We're very excited because today's a special day at the North Carolina General Assembly. The Human Life Non-Discrimination Act has been introduced. Primary sponsors are Representative Pat McElraft, John Bradford, Kristen Baker, and Dean Arp. This legislation prohibits abortion on the basis of race and or the prenatal diagnosis of Down syndrome. So today we are celebrating our friends and our family members with Down syndrome, and we are honored to have a very special guest with us. Paige Brighton is going to share a little bit about her journey with her son Miller. Paige, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
So you just shared your compelling story at our press conference, and so we want to hear it again. Tell us a little bit about your story, Miller's story, and the lessons that you've learned.
I'm happy to. Thank you. I have a very special interest on this bill on two fronts. When I was 24 years old, I did find myself in an unplanned pregnancy and very quickly found out that my boyfriend wanted nothing to do with me or our baby. And I didn't have any support from friends or family. And so with a very heavy heart, I did have an abortion. And I suffered many of the consequences that a lot of women do after they've had that procedure. They don't talk about this a lot as they're touting the good things of abortion, which there really are none. I went into depression. I was suicidal. I made some very reckless decisions with relationships, and just life in general was very, very difficult. And finally, after a good bit of time, I was able to squelch that down, honestly, and move forward with my life. And I did end up marrying a wonderful man, Carter, and we had a wonderful life together. 4 years later, I found out that I was pregnant, and it was a boy. We were so excited to carry on the bride name, and we found out upon delivery that Miller had Down syndrome. And we were absolutely, it was as if someone had pulled the rug out from underneath of us. We were not expecting that. Nothing showed up in any of the tests. But as he grew and as we grew, we came to love him very, very dearly. And he has another brother, Mac. And Miller has a very full life. People think that these kids don't have all of the advantages. They are so much more like normal children than not.
Yes.
They're just a little bit slower. So Miller has been lapping the NASCAR track with drivers. He's been on numerous television shows. He's danced at the White House. He's done a lot of things that many normal children haven't done and more. And now, even today, he is working at Bear Food, which is a gourmet peanut company that my other son started with the intentions of training other special needs adults in job skills. But when I was asked to do this, I really felt like there was a very special part of Miller's life that needed to be shared. I was taken back to a memory of a Christmas pageant that happened at our church. And it was sort of the obligatory angels, little children dressed as angels came in and were singing their songs and their carols. It was beautiful. When all of a sudden, a very rough, dirty homeless man came through the back of the sanctuary. And he came right down forward to the front. And as he was watching these children, no one knew quite what he was going to do or what was going to happen. He was hit by the beauty and the purity of all of it. And he just started shouting out, "It's so beautiful, it's so beautiful," to the point where he fell face down on the floor and started weeping and weeping so badly that he was shaking all over. It was a very tenuous situation. I could see the children were getting fearful, and I just shut my eyes and I just said, "Lord, please send someone forward who will know what to do. Please help." And when I opened my eyes, there was Miller on the floor beside the man. And he had his one hand up in the air, praying. And with the other hand, he was just gently rubbing this man's back. Dirty, smelly, stinky, unpredictable. But Miller didn't get rattled. He came in, he exhibited an inordinate amount of love to this man, so tender with this broken person. And everything that the world deems broken was poured out in that moment as Miller ministered to that man. I thought in the beginning, Miller's birth was retribution for the abortion I had had many years earlier. And that he had sent me this little special needs broken person in order to teach him how to live. But the truth of the matter was, I was the one with special needs. And God sent Miller to me to teach me how to live. And I am so much a better person for it.
That is incredible. You know, when I
Truly.
was listening to you tell that story, I thought in that moment, and it seems like all day, every day, Miller is the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yes.
He was literally the hands and feet of Jesus to that man.
Yes.
In all of
Yes.
his brokenness.
Yes. Yes.
And that is truly powerful.
Yes.
And it's not what this world thinks is powerful.
That's correct.
Right.
That is correct.
A lot of people talk about, you know, individuals who love someone with Down syndrome or are involved in that community frequently say they've given more to me than I could ever give to them, or they've taught me more than I could ever teach them. I know I saw
Yes.
that in my years of teaching in the special education classroom. What are some of the things that Miller has taught you? Big and small.
Well, to slow down.
Oh, wow.
To slow down.
Right.
We were on a very, very fast corporate track and missing a lot of the beauty of the world around us because we were so driven. And if you have someone with Down syndrome in your life or have lost someone with Down syndrome in your life, you know that giddy up and go is not in their vocabulary.
Not part of it, right.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. But in that slowing down, we've been able to observe the world through different eyes and see so much more clearly what I believe the Creator has bestowed upon us that so many times in our harriedness we miss.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a new lens through
It's
which
a
we
new
can
lens.
see the world.
Absolutely.
And
It's a beautiful lens.
It is.
Yes.
I like to think also of a lens of ability.
Yes.
You know, it's more what an individual can do rather
Yes.
than what they cannot do.
Yes.
That's not the story.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think one of my favorite quotes I've heard regarding this is that persons with disabilities make us whole.
Oh.
And when this world, if we did not have them in this world,
Yes.
we would be missing so much.
Miller, with the love that he extends to people, it's grace. It's undeserved, unmerited love and favor that he extends to anyone. He knows no bounds on that. Sometimes that's a little scary to us as parents. We almost have to, if we sense a danger, we have to reach out and
Right.
pull him back. But you know what? It's so interesting how many times when I close my eyes to pray, to ask the Lord to send someone in, my eyes were closed. If my eyes had been open and not praying in that situation, surely I would have grabbed him and pulled him back.
Oh, wow.
But he moved forward.
He followed what God was
He
calling him
followed.
to do. If you were sitting here with a mom who was just given a prenatal diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
of Down syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to her?
Oh, congratulations.
Love it.
Congratulations. And it's interesting you asked that, because I have had people who have received that diagnosis call me, who are sitting on the fence. And I'm not going to tell you that they've all chosen to carry through with the baby. And they'll abort. And then lo and behold, 2 months later, they'll be calling me crushed, because of what they've done. Because abortion takes a piece of you that you can never get back. And then chances are, God is tilling the soil somewhere for her to observe what may have been her biggest blessing, that she by her own hand dismissed. So I would encourage them, as one of the speakers said, there's so many groups out now that are available for the families to go to. It can be a governmental group, it can be a church group, so many different avenues that, and moms groups that come together that you can, bounce things off of, and even sibling groups that come together. Miller's brother, Mac, is his best friend, and Miller is Mac's best friend. And Mac is 6'10". He was a D1 basketball player, but yet he loves his brother, and Miller loves Mac. But they still fight. They're still brothers.
Absolutely.
They're absolutely still brothers. And it's a very, very, I've been redeemed. I have been redeemed. And am such a better person for what I thought was a tragedy in my life and a retribution. Was God really showing me just how much he loved me.
We're joined by two special guests today, Senator Joyce Krovick and Representative Pat McElrath. These ladies are our pro-life warriors in the North Carolina General Assembly. We're very thankful for them and their advocacy for life. So I'm going to start with a very simple question, but the most important one. Why is the Human Life Non-Discrimination Act important to you?
All life is important to me, as well as it should be for North Carolina. And when I found out that 70% of children with Down syndrome are aborted, I was appalled. I couldn't believe it. I have friends who have children with Down syndrome, and it just warms my heart every time I see their smile. So it's very important for me to make sure that North Carolina follows the pro-life agenda and makes sure that we are not discriminating against the most wonderful children there are, children with Down syndrome. And just proud to be a sponsor of this bill.
It's wonderful, and we thank you so much for your support. Senator Krovick?
Oh gosh, it's so heartwarming, as my colleague said, when you see these families with Down syndrome children. They are very special people. And all life is important to me as well. And we have laws in this country to protect against discrimination against people because of race, because of disability, and because of sex. And yet those children in the womb they are discriminated against. Their life is being terminated because they have a disability. And I'm just honored to be a part of this team, to be fighting for this cause, and to be helping to educate the public on how precious that life is and how wonderful their lives are. They're so happy. They bring so much joy to everybody around them. And it's just very important that we pass this law in North Carolina to protect those beautiful babies.
Thank you so much. It's been a very special day as we have celebrated individuals with Down syndrome here at the North Carolina General Assembly and on this episode of The Voice. Now I'd like to welcome someone else to our conversation. Dr. Kristen Baker is a state representative. And you have seen her before here on The Voice.
Yes.
And Dr. Baker is also a primary sponsor of the Human Life Non-Discrimination Act. So with so many different things that you are involved in here in the House of Representatives, what is it about this bill that's special? Why is it important to you?
Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. And I so appreciate being here with my esteemed colleagues and all the work you all have done through the years. I'm brand new here. It's my first term. And as I was campaigning, one of the things I routinely stated was, I am a conservative Christian physician. And I think we need people in Raleigh who recognize the intrinsic value of every human life, and especially the most vulnerable, those who can't or won't advocate for themselves. And obviously we were talking about people who can't advocate for themselves, and if not us, then who, right? And so as a child psychiatrist, this has been my life's passion, is standing up for the most vulnerable. And I believe that at this point, here we are, we're defending those earliest lives from discrimination. And what a calling. And so I'm just so excited to be part of this team in bringing this forward for North Carolina, and for the amazing families who are teaching us every day what it is like to actually learn and live from everyone, right? There is not a single life that doesn't have our Creator's fingerprint right on them. And who are we to determine who the Creator will bring to us and the life-giving opportunities that are there? And I think that most of us who have worked with people who are considered disabled recognize how humbling it is, that in fact you recognize that they have a singular focus on life in ways that we don't often. And I think almost without doubt you will hear from people that they have learned more than they have ever taught people like this. So I could go on, but I just thank you so much for the opportunity to share some of my thoughts and to share this journey.
Absolutely. We're thrilled that you're here. We're thrilled to have all of you and your support. Thank you so much for standing up for life, for speaking for those who cannot speak for themselves. It's truly an honor to be a part of this. Thank you. We have some special guests here with us today. Melinda Delahoyt and her son, Will. They have a really great story to share with us. So Melinda, thank you for joining us. And Will, you too. Okay, so Melinda, would you mind sharing us a little bit of your story?
I will, and Will's so much a part of that story. So at 28 years old, I delivered our first child, Will Delahoyt, who had Down syndrome. And that was unknown to us. We had no reason to suspect anything. And then we had 3 other children after that. But Will is our oldest son, and he is a wonderful young man. And if someone says to us, what's it like to have a family member who has Down syndrome, your son? And I think to a person, our entire family would say, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Will makes all of us better because he just naturally loves people. Doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have or where you live or where you went to school or any of those things don't matter. It just matters that you're someone he wants to talk to, that he cares about, and you'll walk away encouraged from a conversation. Will is the one that brings people to us so many times. So I'm just going to ask Will a few questions, and maybe you can learn a little bit more about him and what he does. This is not Will's favorite thing to talk about himself.
No.
But Will, why you swim with Special Olympics, right?
State team.
State team. And you are, how many strokes do you swim?
4.
4. And how many
Well,
medals do you have?
Over 30.
Over 30. Wow. Will is, but here's the amazing thing about Special Olympics. Will and all his friends are just as happy or happier when their friends win, when they do themselves. And that's what makes a Special Olympics event so wonderful. So Will's been involved in Special Olympics, but you have a job.
I know,
So
Mom.
tell us about your job.
No.
Just where do you work?
Bagger.
At where?
Whole Foods Market.
Whole Foods Market. Do you know how many people even today at our interview said they recognized you from Whole Foods?
I know.
I know. Doesn't that make you happy? Because you're what do you do at Whole Foods?
Bagger.
And what happens? You make. What did you tell
People
me?
happy.
People happy. And you saw some of those people today.
I
just
know.
by doing your job.
I know.
So what about your family? Talk about Ben.
Oh, no.
No, he's the best. Were you the best man in Ben's wedding?
Yes, I was.
You were. Did you give a speech?
No.
Oh, you did give a speech.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did. Did you write that speech as best man?
No.
Oh, you did too. Were you the best man?
I was the best
You
man.
were the best man. So you did all the best men things, huh? You were
Yeah.
wonderful. And sisters? You have sisters?
Bossy sisters.
Lots of sisters. They are, but they love you. So what do you
Yeah.
say when they're coming to visit? They're coming to visit this weekend.
Make me happy.
Okay. And what happens when they leave?
Sadness.
Sadness. So Will loves his family. He's been working, how many years at Whole Foods?
18 big ones.
18 big ones. So Will, would you say you have a good life?
Yes.
Yes. A very good life?
100% yes.
100% yes. But I don't think we've shared the most amazingly helpful thing about Will. You understand technology.
Yeah, I know.
So who sets up all his games and TVs and Mom's TV and what's wrong with my computer and what's going on is Will Delahoy, who has the patience to just find out what it is and make it better. So is there anything else you want to say?
No.
No.
No, I want to get out of here.
I think that Will has been doing a lot today, and Will does not like to talk about himself. So I think you all have heard probably the main parts of Will's life, and we are blessed to be Will's parents, our children, our extended family.
Bossy sisters.
Bossy but fun. My mother, for Will's first Christmas, had 5
You are like-
Christmas trees at her house, all for Will. So, thank you for Will.
Thank you, Melinda, and thank you, Will,
Yeah.
for joining us here on this special episode of The Voice.
Good job, Will.
And thank you for joining us for this special episode of The Voice. Again, the piece of legislation that we've discussed today is the Human Life Non-Discrimination Act. And you can learn more about this bill and also advocate for this bill by going to ncvalues.org/life. It's a place where you can easily go email your legislator. They'll have their phone number, you can call, and please help us spread the word around the state of North Carolina that every single life is precious. Thank you.
Every time I hear the story of a woman choosing abortion because she was told her baby would be born with Down syndrome or some other disability, it really hits me at my core. It's just so close to my own story that it actually puts me back on that ultrasound table. We could see all the markers for Down syndrome. Shortened limbs, a thick neck, and a very serious heart defect. The doctor took me into her office and she said, "Well, Mrs. Amick, your baby's going to have Down syndrome. And in cases like these, we recommend termination." I mean, it was that fast, it was that plain, it was that cold. I can't imagine what it would have been like if I didn't know the truth of Psalm 139, verse 14. reminding me this baby growing inside my womb was fearfully, wonderfully, even miraculously being made all in the image of the Lord. And I was able to say with confidence in Christ, no, we will not abort our baby. I chose life that day. And yet I confess I still had to wrestle with all the emotion of this for the next 5 months of that pregnancy. I mean, Sarah's diagnosis, it just didn't fit into my plan for a perfect baby, whatever that means. And so I begged God for a miracle. I begged him that Sarah would not have a heart defect, and that even if she did, that she would not be born with Down syndrome. And then after 5 months of just pounding on God's door, Sarah was born. And she had a heart defect, and she had Down syndrome. Where was my miracle? What happened to all those prayers that I shot up to heaven? Wasn't God listening? Well, right around midnight, Sarah's nurse walked into the room, and she started unplugging Sarah from all of the life support systems that she had been hooked up to for those first 6 weeks. Well, with my mouth hanging open, before I could even say anything, she picked Sarah up out of her hospital crib and she placed her in my arms. And she said, "Just take your baby for a walk." And her eyes finished the story. You see, up until that moment, I had not been able to hold my daughter. And that nurse knew there was no guarantee that Sarah was going to survive that 8-hour surgery that was waiting for her the next day. And if she didn't, if she was called home to be with Jesus during that surgery, well, that nurse was giving me the incredible gift of being able to hold my baby flesh to flesh, heart to heart, just for 20 minutes. I walked out of Sarah's room and headed towards the elevators, and in a very childlike way, just wanting to get as close to God as possible. Well, I hit the top button in that elevator, and up we went to the highest floor at Children's Hospital in Boston. And when the doors opened, the wall was floor to ceiling glass. To be very transparent, everything had been all about me and all about my baby. But at that moment, when I saw just the myriad of lights and all those skyscrapers, what I could see were countless souls in need of a savior. It just made me feel so small, so insignificant. And at a time when I was overcome with the presence of God, and yet the only thing that I could squeak out was this: Jesus. But what I found out is the name of God was the only thing I needed to pray, because the Lord spoke to my heart, and he said, "I see you. I see you, Shauna, and I see that dying baby in your arms." Sarah's diagnosis didn't change. She still was going to need heart surgery, and if that was successful, she still would have Down syndrome. But my perspective on our situation changed, and I recognized anew, afresh, the inherent value and dignity of all human life. It doesn't matter how many chromosomes we have, or how many IQ points we think we have, or how many limbs or working limbs we have. Every one of us is God's image bearer. My heart literally aches when I think of the staggering abortion rates of preborn babies diagnosed with Down syndrome. 3 out of 4 babies with Down syndrome are aborted in the United States. And in some European countries, it's 9 out of 10. That is nothing less than the intentional effort of preventing the birth of a whole group of people. And the UN defines that as genocide. Well, Sarah is 14 years old now, and I dare not imagine my story without her in it. Sarah has taught me how to love unconditionally, how to embrace life fully. And Sarah is who she is because she has Down syndrome. And you know what? She and I have done some miraculous things over the years. And I know the very best is still yet to come. I'm Shauna Amick, and this is my daughter, Sarah. I chose life for Sarah over 14 years ago, and I'm so glad that I did. If you or someone you love has received news of a prenatal diagnosis of disability, just know that you are not alone, and your baby is precious too, made in God's perfect image, and so much more than any diagnosis. Contact us today for prayer and for practical help. Here at Johnny and Friends, we can't wait to talk to you.